Yeah, it never seems like real, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I think it's been over these last 3 or 4 years since I've jumped in full time. It just has felt like, oh, at some point the adults are gonna come home and they're gonna be like, "You idiots, this is not real. This is not sustainable. Get out of here. Go get a real job." And it's like, yeah, every day that doesn't happen is such a win.
You got a text thread, you turn it into a Twitter feed, you call it No Laying Up. Where does the name come from?
Yeah, so this is one of those things. I have a memory, I have a recollection. As memory can get a little fuzzy and game of telephone as the years go on. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but as best as I remember, we were sitting around one weekend, and it was probably 2013, I want to say, and Solly pings us and says, "Hey, I just created this Twitter account," or maybe he asked us, "Should we create a Twitter account?" We're like, "I I don't know, man. Like, why?" And I feel like he came back and was like, "I just started a Twitter account. I called it No Laying Up. I didn't know what else to call it." And honestly, that was it. Away we went. That's how I remember it. Now, if you get Chris or you get Tron, they may have slightly different variations of that, but I know I didn't create the Twitter account. I believe Chris did, and it wasn't like, "Oh my god, what should we call it?" We're brainstorming all these names. I feel like Solly just was like, "You know what? I'm going to call it No Laying Up." Again, what does it matter? We're just three random guys firing stupid golf takes into the void. But that, to the best of my knowledge, is how the Twitter started. And then it gets a little traction, and we then started the blog, and that's where Tron's brother Neil came in. He really helped us get that off the ground. He's a lot more tech savvy, and yeah, it was the Twitter account and a little writing for the website blog for a while. And then I believe in 2014, well, I know in 2014 in April, we recorded our first podcast. We were all together in Hilton Head at the Heritage Tournament. I have a timeshare on Hilton Head Island, and I invited the guys, and
I
we
did not
put.
know you were a timeshare owner.
Oh
That's a
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
That's a fun fact.
That was one of my first purchases with my new job.
Well, it should be a very savvy investment, of
Exactly,
course.
exactly. And yeah, we stuck a microphone in the middle of like the coffee table. We're all munching on like tortilla chips. Like, it was such an embarrassing listen. Folks can find it. And
Episode 1.
yeah, we just, through everything, we kind of just taught ourselves how to create, upload, publish a podcast, and away we went.
And now, man, there are a lot of golf podcasts out there, but at the time you would have been among the very first. So
I
it's hard to imagine a time without golf podcasts, but there was a time.
I know, and we've always joked, and I think it's one of the true blessings for us, was golf's kind of always 5 years behind the times. And so we were all listening to other podcasts, but I think none of us had like a podcast that filled the golf void. And it was like, you know what, why don't we try to record something and, see what this is all about. So
Did you
we
go to
were
one of those? Did you go to one of those weekends at Hilton Head where they sell you you get to come for the free weekend and then they try and pitch you the timeshare? Because I would love
No, I
if
know, I
they saw you
wish.
come into that room and I was selling timeshares. I would just be like, dude, I'm gonna close. I would be drooling. This guy's.
I'm a
We're
sucker.
totally closing this
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
today.
No, I'm a mark.
You are.
My parents, as a family, we've been going to Hilton Head for a long time, and my parents have had a timeshare since the 80s, probably. And so I graduated in 2007 from college into the Great Recession, and I think it was '08. It was like that next year. I I think I must have gone down with my parents. I think my sister was maybe we were down in Hilton, or maybe I wasn't even down there. But my parents were like, obviously the economy was crashing, and so all of these units, all of these weeks at the place where they had a timeshare were not only for sale, but like honestly dirt cheap. And I was like, oh yeah, I have a job. I'm making money for the first time in my life. What's, $1,500 for a week in Hilton Head? Sure. And so that was it. It was more just like they were practically giving them away.
Well, a savvy investment by yourself
Yeah.
then, buying low. So no laying up takes off. What's the best part for you of being a part of no laying up?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the easy answer would be some of the places we get to travel. Obviously, some of the golf courses we've been fortunate enough to play, some of the events we've we've attended in person. Those are those not to discount all those things, but I truly think the best part for me has been some of the relationships I've built. And if you'll allow me to embarrass you, I would include our friendship among those.
Well, yeah,
That
100%.
I mean, I was I was reading your books before I ever knew you, before No Laying Up was ever a thing. I loved your course called Ireland, was really the first golf book that I just fell in love with. And the idea of traveling and seeing a country, seeing a place, and using golf as a vehicle to do it was just the coolest thing in the world. And so
And
through
then
No
we went
Laying
to
Up,
Ireland together.
and
How
then
cool
we
is
went
that?
to Ireland. I know, truly, that was
Right?
really,
That was
really
awesome.
special. And I think I hopefully I've told you that before. But it really, I was kind of pinching myself, thinking, here, one of my favorite authors. I'm in Ireland. His book was so special to me. It really was a wonderful experience for me. And so, folks like
Well, thank you.
yourself, I've gotten to talk to Michael Bamberger a lot. He's another
Yeah.
person I just have revered. Max Homa weirdly has become a friend. I just think about the relationships that I have built, and you know, quote unquote famous people and not famous people. I think that's been the most special part of No Laying Up for me.
Is there a moment that stands out to you as like, I can't believe this has happened, aside from you're very kind about Ireland, but we'll skip aside from that, a moment where you're looking around, you're just like, how the hell is this happening?
Okay, I won't make you blush anymore. I would
Yeah.
say Ireland accepting. I would say that moment for me, we went to the Solheim Cup last fall in Toledo, and it was the very first Solheim Cup I had ever been to. It was amazing. I absolutely loved it. Of course, we have sponsored and gotten to know Madeline Sagstrom really well, who was playing for Team Europe. Team Europe wins the Solheim Cup, and she and her caddy and some other folks we knew said, "Why don't you guys come to the party with us tonight? We're going to celebrate." And so we go into the Team Europe party, and I'm shooting a game of pool with Dame Laura Davies. I'm drinking out of the Solheim Cup, and the whole time I'm like, "Holy shit, why do I get to have these experiences? This is so much fun." It truly was one of the most fun, memorable nights of my life, and certainly, that's all thanks to No Laying Up and the journey we've been on. But it was just like, oh my god, this is really, really special.
It's been quite a journey, my man. I mean, we're talking about, okay, to trace it from a text thread to podcast, or to Twitter to podcast, to what you just mentioned, sponsoring players, doing great, video, digital content, working with big companies. It's crazy how it's
It
exploded. Do you
is.
kind of pinch yourself? Is this, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, it never seems like real, if that makes sense. Like
yeah.
I think it's been over these last 3 or 4 years since I've jumped in full time. It just has felt like, oh, at some point the adults are gonna come home and they're gonna be like, "You idiots, this is not real. This is not sustainable. Get out of here. Go get a real job." And it's like, yeah, every day that doesn't happen is such a win. It really, and I'm not even sure if I really fully appreciate how lucky and how cool our experiences are. Like I try to, but yeah, there's certainly an aspect of surrealness to it all, definitely.
Now I know what you're saying. There's that feeling of like someone's finally going to come in and say, "Okay, what do you want to be when you grow up?"
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm 40 something,
I know.
and I'm still waiting for someone to say that. But
Or like, no, you
my wife
can't.
does say that from time to time.
Yeah, you can't go to this cool golf course and like film something and call that a job. Like that's not that's just not how the world works.
Speaking of going to cool golf courses, Tourist Scandinavia is killing it right now, and um, it's beautiful, man. Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
What
We
what's the so production wise? There's been a sort of, I'd say, a jump.
mhm.
Would that be the addition of uh, more of a crew or technical, or what's the
Yeah,
how has that changed over the years? I mean, in Ireland, it was kind of. I watched you guys. You were shooting stuff on your phone and like running, and
right.
it was a very run and gun operation.
Yes.
Has that changed?
It has changed. Yeah. I hopefully for the better. I think I I think certainly some people like the run and gun and um the just the energy that comes from that type
It's
of
true.
shooting.
Yeah.
But we've upgraded our equipment. We've invested in good cameras, good, wireless mic packs, for instance,
Hmm.
different lenses. We've invested in just folks to travel with us to help us film stuff, right? So we're not having to play golf and film. It was becoming a bit challenging. And so, yeah, I think we've invested in equipment, we've invested in people. The one constant, if I can shout out my colleague DJ Piehowski, obviously the Golfers Journal folks know him really well.
Of course.
He still is the mastermind and the lead editor and production guy. And so I think a little bit of it is just a reflection of him maturing and honing his craft as a filmmaker, as kind of corny or cliche as that sounds. But I think it's a personal evolution for him that plays out in how our videos and certainly Tour Sauce Scandinavia is the latest example. Just they're starting to evolve. Hopefully, folks can notice they're getting a little bit more cinematic. They're they're a little bit better shot, and again, I guess that just comes from the people and the equipment and just trying to evolve.
It looks great, man. And so DJ's role, we know, is largely connected to a lot of the sort of the video and film content production.
Mhm.
It seems Solly does a lot of the Twitter, etc. Define what are the roles among the group, the sort of behind the scenes. What do you do on a day to day basis as an
Yeah,
operation?
yeah, it's funny, we do have some clear roles and responsibilities. I think we've naturally settled into them. So you mentioned Solly, he's tweeting a lot. He's obviously the voice of our
Right.
main podcast. He does a lot of client relations stuff too. DJ, production, video, shooting, all of that good stuff. Tron and Neil, the Schuster brothers, have forever tag teamed our merchandise operation, which is a ton more work than I think might appear on the surface.
Hmm.
Sourcing material, making sure the specs are correct. Honestly, like designing stuff. So they've handled that since the start, really. And I just don't do anything. I golf. I go to cool places, and yeah, I
That's what I
pretend.
suspected. That's why I asked.
No,
What do you
I
do
yeah.
here?
What would you say you
This is
do around here? So my big behind the scenes role, using my accounting degree, which I think my father especially never thought I would actually put to use. I handle all of our finance and accounting. So I'm doing our books. I'm invoicing folks. I'm writing checks. I'm doing all of that fun stuff day to day. I get to express a little creativity and freedom through the Trap Draw podcast. Um, what else? I have a big hand along with Tron in our events. That's a big role for both of us. And then I always say the 5 of us, we all come together on the creative side, being in the videos, being on the podcasts, etc. So we kind of think about it as more of the creative side, and then what are we doing day to day behind the scenes in terms of, business functions.
And you brought in some new folks, Cody and Ben, as well.
And we do have helping hands. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cody McBride is a guy that's worked for us for, a little over a year now. I think the easiest way to describe him is like jack of all trades, kind of a project manager of sorts. He has a hand in a number of different things. He's got a strong military background, so he's very detail oriented, task oriented, helps us with planning and just making sure our processes are good. He's the guy behind the scenes on all our live shows. He has a podcast of his own, so he's been a big help. Ben Hoteling, who you gave a huge honor, the America's Golf Course.
The Great American Golf Course.
Yeah, he built along with buddies Bruff Creek National.
As featured in the Golfers Journal as well.
Correct.
Before I wrote about it. So
that's right. We would encourage everybody to check that out.
Yep.
He's a jack of all trades as well, a little bit. That's kind of the common theme, but he helps with our website and our membership group, and he runs our Instagram. He does some video editing. He does shooting, obviously. Both he and Cody do a lot of filming. And then our newest addition, Casey Landman, is just such a delight. She comes with a ton of experience in the world of merchandising and apparel, and so she has been just an enormous help.
Is she in Philadelphia?
She is. Well, New Jersey technically, but yeah.
I know. Casey, how are you? I feel like we've met. Was she at the book party? Maybe. It was a busy day. I'm sorry.
Yeah, God, no, I can't imagine.
But I see her on. I do see her on social with Philadelphia things, so I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah. She just has the most bubbly personality. So she's really helped us kind of grow up and mature and streamline our whole merchandise operation.
You have grown up and matured. Is there a risk of, what's your secret sauce? I mean, do you think about, what if we get too big? What if we get too mature? What if we grow up too much? What, as you evolve, are there risks of not being what people love about No Laying Up? Growing is not easy, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure this will resonate a lot with what you guys are probably talking about and going through. But for us, we've always, we want to respect our audience. And I think that starts with just trying to be as true to ourselves as we can be. I think as we grow, one thing we've really tried to keep in mind is, hey, let's not try to act like we're still in our 20s, because that's totally disingenuous. We're all, we're all in our 30s. I'm going to be 40 next year. We can't pretend to be like what we're not. And so I think our goal is, let's just be genuine about where we are in our life, and hopefully the audience that we do have can kind of grow with us. And I think that's a North Star for us. I think in the beginning, what really helped us, if you talk about a secret sauce, for lack of a better term, was because we all had other jobs, real jobs, quote unquote real jobs. And I think because none of us started No Laying Up or ever expected No Laying Up to be our job, let alone our primary job, we could say no to stuff, and we could be picky, and we could just do stuff that we wanted to do. And I think that's more so than any of the stuff I just said. I think that's been a guiding light for us, is like, hey, if we're not excited about something, or if we don't want to do something, how can we expect people to like watch or listen or absorb something like that? Just doesn't work. So we have to start with like, what gets us excited, produce that content, and then if people like it or don't, that's fine. But I think we can at least feel good about being true to ourselves and having that North Star, if you will. So
and I think also, as I've watched your content, and everyone who, I'm sorry about using that word, but as I've watched your business and what you're creating, I've watched that evolve. Your role in it has, I don't know if it's grown, but I think one realizes how essential you are to the mix. I mean, you all have, the five of you are, work really well together in so many different ways, and Cody and Ben are great as well, and um, but your part in it, but whether it be tourist sauce or strapped, I mean, I'm trying to say, I think you carry a lot of the shows. Do you feel that, or
Well,
your
that's very nice of you
popularity?
to say.
I think you bring an energy that's just a very a real likability as this sort of, dare I say, I don't know. I don't want to call you like a gentle giant, but you probably encountered that description before.
Yeah. Well,
But you
I think
have
that's maybe what you said in the book.
okay, probably is.
So we're past that. We're past
Okay.
that.
But
It's
yeah.
well, you're making me blush and a little uncomfortable. I think the five of us, we always try to talk in terms of like almost a basketball team, right? And I think that's just because five of us, obviously five people on the court for a basketball game, and the best basketball teams, everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses. There are important roles to play. Some some games somebody will be featured heavily in terms of points, just like some shows are going to be more about somebody than somebody else. And so the way I've always tried to approach things personally, and this is where it's like, man, I can't believe people actually care or listen to anything I have to say. But I'm a 10 handicap golfer. I'm not I'm not a world class golfer. I am not an expert really on anything in terms of golf. So all I can give you is my honest opinion. And so I just try to stay true to that. Again, don't try to be anything I'm not, because I'm not that good of an actor. I'm not that good of a faker. I just have to try to give you my honest opinion on stuff. And I will say from time to time, I enjoy, and I think this is where like a little bit influenced by some of my favorite media personalities, it's fun to kind of lean into a bit or to poke the bear, go against the grain. I think those are all natural personality traits I have, and so those come out from time to time in certain settings. But I think between the five of us, what really is so nice is we really do have a shared sense of humor. We really are very good friends. Off
Yeah.
camera. I think and you know it, you were on our trip with us. Like,
Well, I get that question a
I
lot,
yeah,
from
I really
people who
do
are
think
like,
what people see on camera is a very faithful representation of how we would be off camera.
I agree. No, people ask me, "Oh, you were on tour sauce, or the guys that know Laying Up, are they really like that in real life?" And I'm always happy to report that, yeah, they actually are,
I
whether the
almost think,
cameras are
Tom,
on or off.
I almost think our funniest stuff is probably off camera because it's spur of the
Right,
moment. And then it's like, oh shit, I wish we could have gotten that on video. Like, let's try to set that up, or, how
right.
can we kind of get there naturally?
No, 100%. But that's you have a genuine quality to you, and so I'm asking that question because talking about where you've come from and what you're into, to now find yourself, the voice of a podcast and the face of us of with others of these popular golf series. You've become, wow, talk about going in a different career direction, and you're pretty damn good at it. But your job is to kind of be yourself, but um yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool. I mean, it's cool to see how you have. I mean, is this sort of? It's obviously probably it's nothing you ever imagined yourself doing, but
Oh no.
is this your dream job? What you're doing now?
That's a good question, because all through my 20s, I think I spent so much time and energy trying to figure out my dream job. I think there's such a pressure on folks, and maybe it's always been like this. I can only speak to my own experience, but I sense there's a ton of pressure on people, and kids especially coming out of college in this country, to know, quote unquote, what you want to be when you grow up. And so that was always something that was very difficult because I didn't quite know, I knew some things I liked, right? I've always loved sports. I've been okay with numbers. But it was never like I always had such a weird jealousy is not the right word, but man, I would look at friends who just they knew they wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer or could point to like a profession, be like, that's what I want to be. I never felt that. I never have felt that. And I still don't really feel that, right? We've talked about no laying up and accidentally getting into this and this becoming a full-time job. I honestly think that's still part of like how I approach things is like it does feel like borrowed time to me a little bit. Like it just doesn't feel like I can relax and be like, oh God, this is what I'm gonna do for the next 25 years, you know?
Right.
Um and I'm the type of person if you would chart like all the places I've lived and the different jobs I've done, I like new experiences. I like seeing new places, and so I do think down the road, I would love to be able to carve out time to, for instance, get back into coaching basketball. Right? That's
Yeah.
I truly love that, and so I am hopeful that this can be a big part of what I'm doing for the foreseeable future. But at the same time, I hope we can get it to a point and I know I speak for the other guys too, right? With families and just as we get older, hopefully we can also create some time to pursue outside interests, and for me that would be again, maybe coaching basketball or. It's funny because when I first met you, you were a college professor
Yeah.
who was writing about golf on the side and, doing some travel obviously on the side, and for a long time, that's what I really thought I wanted to do, like, the idea of being a college professor, I know there's a ton of bureaucratic nightmare that goes into it, but that lifestyle, getting to work with young adults who hopefully are eager to learn, and I just have always loved to learn myself, and so for a long time I thought, you know what, I want to be a college professor. Now I would go back to, well, what are you going to teach? That's a great question. I don't know.
Oh
Um,
my God, Phil. See, I just did that. You could. There are so many things
but
that a
but that's where I'm
university
like,
would want
Tom,
you to
you're going
teach.
to give up that to come into
In
the
this world.
Golfers Journal and full time in the golf world. It's like I was so jealous of you in that regard. So
All right,
I'm
couple
not.
things. Couple
Yeah,
things.
yeah. Go ahead.
No, no. One good rule: we won't compare ourselves to other people and their journeys and what they're doing, and say I want this or that looks better than what I have. Because it was a tough choice to sort of leave academia. I did teach for 20 years. And did it is, and sometimes there are moments where I'm like, man, I can't believe I gave up tenure. Not because of what I'm not enjoying what I'm doing, but just like you think like, wow, once you get tenure, then you just
It's a
don't.
security blanket for
That's it,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So, but it was maybe a little too secure, and the opportunity to do the stuff we're doing at the Golfers Journal is really, if you say there's a dream job for a writer, and someone who writes and plays golf, um, you know, this
Yeah.
was it. So,
Yeah.
and no regrets. It's been a good decision, but I think you would have a ton to offer in a communications department, with what you've created and learned and the things that you've learned from production to communicate, to so many different things. Man, you could walk into any communications department in Denver right now and they would hire you at least as an adjunct. They're
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, you should do that. Do that. You
I
should,
and
there's a lot of
and
things.
that's
I've got a lot
yeah.
of plans for you.
Well, and I like, when I kind of have done the work and really thought about like what do I love? It's those meaningful interactions with people.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the classroom can provide that. Obviously, athletic environments can provide that. Those are the two I'm most comfortable with, I guess. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. But it's funny you're asking me these questions and about, down the road and how's it going to evolve and where do you guys see it? It's one of the more difficult things about starting a company and I'm sure this will resonate with some of your listeners who have done the same thing, whether in golf or otherwise, is balancing the day-to-day responsibilities with the long-term strategic planning and discussions. And so these are all things
100%.
that we've made ourselves. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Golfers Journal, you guys are doing the same thing. And if I can give a little credit, this is where Neil Schuster has been just so good about really leading us in these, let's take a couple days and get together, and we need to talk about like 3, 5, 10 years and really start discussing the future. And
Mhm.
so it's been a great exercise for us, but it's something that I feel like it's funny because it's like, man, we're we're like working through all of this in real time right now. So it's something that never really ends. It just kind of evolves, I guess.
You don't know until you look back. You don't know what the hell happened.
Right.
Let's be honest.
Exactly.
As
Exactly.
with anything. And then, well, so bring it. Speaking of Neil, and rather than just saying, "All right, we're five guys who just get along great," to dig in a little on your relationship with each of them and the unique dynamics. I mean, obviously, you and Neil doing Strapped, that's a special bond. Your bonds with the boys from Miami of Ohio. I think you and DJ, from an artistic point of view, probably have a lot in common. So just give you a couple scenarios of the five of you to see who you would pick in these moments. If All right, who do you call if you got a flat tire? No offense, Phil,
Mm.
but I feel like you might need to call someone in that
Yeah.
situation.
You know what? Hand up. I have never changed a tire on my own. I know that makes me such a, I don't know, millennial or whatever the stereotype would be. I think I would call I think I would call Neil because the what I associate with Neil is just he's such a doer. He's such a go-getter and he's got energy. And so if I called Neil, if I'm on the side of the road, said, "Neil, I got a flat. I can't get hold of AAA. Can you come out and try to help me change this tire?" I'm confident he'd say yes. And then when he got there, he would just he would take over. He would dictate. He would tell me what I need to do. He's just kind of a force of nature. He's a force of personality, and so I think that would work well in a situation like that for me.
All right, he'd get it done. If you had one extra credential, if you got two passes for the Masters, who you taking with you?
Oh God, it's actually funny. I won the lottery way back before NLU was a full time thing, and I took Tron and I took Solly.
Okay.
I will say, and again, no offense to anybody, I'm sure they're all going to
I'm
hear
trying
this,
to
but
drive some wedges here,
right,
right?
exactly. I would I would fall back. I would invite Tron because he's the one that I've been watching golf with the longest. His golf takes always make me laugh, and I think just walking around Augusta and picking his brain and hearing everything he has to say, he would be my top choice.
He is a man of strong and informed
He
opinions.
is an opinionated man. Yes.
No doubt about it. And but he backs them up. That's the frustrating thing if you ever get into verbal sparring or sparring about like golf courses, this, that, and the other. He has amazing recall for golf holes as
Yes.
well.
Oh my God. Yes, he does.
Freaky.
I
So
I feel so out of my depth.
so if you weren't talking about golf courses, who are you talking books with in your group?
DJ.
DJ.
Books, movies, songs, TV shows. DJ is my go-to. Really, since I first met him, we've been, hey, I saw this awesome movie. Have you seen it? And if it's no, it's like, okay, well, you have to go see it, and then we need to talk about it. Or if I have, it's like, we just get into it for like a half hour, 45 minutes. So I would say definitely DJ on like book, movie, show, something artistic I want to discuss with somebody.
And by extension, so maybe it would be DJ if you were stranded, the old stranded on a desert island with one of your no laying up mates.
Oh God. Well, yeah, I'm sorry to any of them if they have to be stuck with me. I feel like I would just be moody and quiet, and I'd be feeling sorry for
You kind of
myself.
do a show about this, I suppose.
Yeah.
Stranded.
Neil would be good stranded just because I think he's such like the polar opposite of me in a lot of ways that would be helpful.
Yeah, the odd couple dynamic of Strapped has been pretty fun to watch that. But you're also not that odd of a couple, because I think one of the sneaky things about your group is that Neil is actually, while he plays, and I point this out in my America book, while he plays the jester, he's smart as hell.
Oh, yeah,
Actually,
yeah,
and
it's
which is
ridiculous.
kind of a funny thing
Yeah,
when you realize that, you're like, holy shit, this
yeah. No, I
is
mean, he's
crazy.
the Ivy League guy. He's worked for, Google, and
Right.
he's probably got the best resume of any of of any of us.
Now, as the senior of the group, do you find yourself? I mean, I think maybe you're a little bit of a have sort of an older soul, and that's a good dynamic, I think, for the group. Do you have a grumpy bone in your body, or do you
Oh,
have a
for
little
sure.
like
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
for
like,
sure.
because lately you've been complaining about dogs and they're eating out. So can we take it on that? I know you've got pet peeves, and I'd love to hear about some of them.
Um, yeah, God, where do we start? Well, the thing you have to know about me is I'm like super cynical about a lot of stuff,
Right.
which is weird because I feel like there's this clash within me of like I want to see the best in people. I want to please. I'm a pleaser at heart. I don't like conflict, but yet I'm super cynical and
Yeah, you do have those two yin and yangs going on, Phil.
yeah,
There's
I'm
no
probably
doubt
the most
about it.
introverted of the five of us, right? Like,
Yet, if you put an extra long microphone in your hand, you're a natural, I think, in front of the camera, which is crazy.
which is crazy. Yeah, dogs. So I feel like the only guy in Denver without a dog. The guys like to tease me, and I don't even know how this started. They say I hate dogs. I want to say unequivocally that is not true. I do not hate dogs. I just have never had a dog. Growing up, we never had a dog, and so I just feel very uncomfortable around them. I feel like they can sense my unease, and it just makes for a very awkward dynamic between me and dogs. And so Tron and I were talking about a San Francisco restaurant that's opening that's going to have like $75 tasting menus for dogs. I'm like, oh my God. Like, if, and again, I'll probably alienate your listeners, but if you are the type of person that takes a dog to a $75 fancy dinner in San Francisco, like, we're living completely separate existences. Like, I cannot fathom that. I had a next door neighbor growing up, super nice lady, super awesome family. I would be in my driveway shooting the basketball for hours, hours and hours and hours. And the neighbor lady, she would bring the dog out to go for a walk, and it'd be like, "Oh my God, Sid, say hi to Phil." And I'd be like, "Oh, like, what do you want me? Am I supposed to talk to your dog? Like, I don't get it. You're treating your dog like it's a human, but it's a dog." Like, I've always been uncomfortable in situations like that.
So
So
that's why you were very, very cold with our dog, Phil. All the girls noticed, and they
I
said
just
he's
don't know
very
what to
nice, but
do. I just don't
what's
know what to
wrong with him?
do.
No, I'm just kidding. You're
Yeah,
fine, dude. You should get a dog. You're a single guy living in Denver.
and I would. I one
On those
day,
walks and that leaf
right.
peeping that you're doing with a dog,
Well,
it
see
ups the
you.
fun factor, and frankly downs the weird factor.
No,
So
but you know what? I just travel too much, and
yeah,
I
no, yeah, you're right.
it's just me. I think it would be a nightmare to board and to handle all the logistics.
Oh,
But one
Aaron would
day,
take him.
I got to face this head on, and I will have a dog one day.
Okay, I was gonna say
Um,
Aaron would take him, and Aaron is your shout out to Aaron. Is your event planner who I work with as well, and has become a very good friend, dear friend of
she's the
both of
best.
ours, and
Yep.
she's the best. But she lives in Denver. Because when I said Aaron would take care of your dog, I didn't want people to think that there was another, which is a topic I did want to bring up. Speaking of dogs, it's a great way to meet potential partners. And in case you haven't noticed, your four brothers of No Laying Up have all now, with Neil's recent nuptials, they've left you as the lone bachelor. So
Yeah.
you may have noticed that. How are things going on that front? And yeah, are you still single for all the lady listeners out there?
Well, I am happy to report I guess I don't know.
Is this a first? Is it? Are you gonna?
This is
gonna
an
push into
exclusive. Yeah, play the music.
Okay.
This is an exclusive. I've been, I guess the term is dating. I've been seeing somebody
I think that
regularly
is the
for
term.
for going on, we're probably in our second month. I'm always a bit hesitant because I don't want to, get out over my skis, but I will say Denver, a lot better being single in Denver than it was in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. The dating pool is much bigger, which has been really helpful for me. I think living in a small beach town in Florida during my early to mid 30s as a single man was a little tough at times. It's been a blessing getting out to Denver. A dog would have maybe expedited some things, but I'm in a good spot right now. We'll see.
Okay.
Knock on wood. I'm knocking my desk right now.
Okay. I
But yeah,
won't
not
pry too much.
not actively searching at the moment. Let's put it that way.
Okay. All right. Yeah, you're in a good place. I won't pry too much. She age appropriate?
Very age appropriate.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah. She's
Employed?
She's gainfully employed.
Okay.
She skis.
Good. I remember. I know that. Yeah,
she's a homeowner.
These are all pluses.
Yeah. I mean, way cooler than I am. That's the thing. But I will say, Tom, kind of bringing our whole discussion full circle, one of the things that has made me the most uneasy is in a dating atmosphere, meeting somebody new, and you just know the question's coming.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Yeah.
Now, maybe I'm just too far in my own head, but it's like, oh my God, where do I start? How do I explain what I do to somebody, right? So I try to be as vague and quick as possible. I say, well, some friends and I, we own a golf company. It's kind of, new media. We do some content and we sell some merchandise. I feel like that's what I've settled on to kind of quickly encapsulate what I do. Now, I then leave it up to the woman to either follow up, maybe that sparks interest in them. Maybe it doesn't. That's happened before too. But I've always felt a little awkward about answering that question just because I don't exactly know the easiest way to describe it to somebody that
it's not a quick response. It's not an easy answer.
That knows nothing about golf.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, well, we have a podcast. We do some travel shows. We sell some merchandise. Generally, it's just we don't take ourselves seriously. And it's like, okay, I can just see the wheels turning. Well, like, how do you make money? Like, is this really a thing? So it's like, no, we make, we make, God, more than more than we should probably, right? We make enough where it can be my full-time job. But then we come to the second hurdle, Tom, and this is where things really get tricky. And it's, oh my gosh, you have a podcast. That's so cool. Or, oh my gosh, you have a video. Your company's called No Laying Up. I'm going to go check it out. Okay. When you watch the video, you're going to notice people call me Randy. And you're going to say, why do people call me Randy? I thought your name was Phil. Am I being catfished? And I want to say, no, you're not being catfished. That is a nickname. And then they go, well, why do they call you Randy? And then I go into this whole call. It's just like, God, sometimes I just wish my name was Phil. I'm an accountant. And then I could have that whole conversation over with in 2 seconds.
No, I didn't. Yeah. You don't even think about in this day and age of the cost of living with two names.
Yeah.
How is she a tall woman?
She's not. People ask me that too. Do you only and I joke, when you're 6'7", 6'8", pretty much everybody I encountered day to day, and especially on the female side, they're just all shades of short. Like I have no appreciation for 5'6" versus 5'4". Now, if you were 5'8", I think you would have a very nuanced knowledge of like, you met somebody, you're like, oh my God, she's 5'6" or she's 5'4". That would be very important. But when you're 6'8", really anybody below 6 foot on the female side, it's just like, they're all just kind of short to a degree.
You're just painting us all with one brush, aren't you?
Yeah,
All of
exactly.
us
But
sub
you guys
six.
paint me with one brush because if I had a
It is
nickel for
true.
every time in my life people say, "Oh my God, you're tall. How tall are you?" I'm just
I know.
tall to people. So I feel like I can say everybody else is just, varying degrees of short.
Fair enough. Does your height make it tougher? Yeah, thank you for you've given us a lot of time. I did want to touch on your height though, since it's in your name. Best and worst parts of being a tall man. Is it tough on your golf game? Being 6'8"?
It probably doesn't help, right? I
I mean,
don't
you're
have
very, very
many.
far away from the ball.
Yeah, it's just a lot of room for things to go really wrong. Uh, so I don't think it's the best height for maximizing my golf ability. People always say, "Oh my God, you're 6'8". You should hit the ball 300 yards." And I think that objectively that is true. I should. And also, I'm like one of the shortest hitters. I do not use my length well at all in my golf swing. Um, it's funny because there's not great height through my family. I can remember as a kid, all my favorite sports people were basketball players, and I always wished I could be 6'4". I thought, if I could grow to be at least 6'4", that would give me a shot to be a good basketball player, right? And I hit 6'4" my freshman year of high school, and kept going a few more inches. So height was very good to me in terms of basketball, which was my first love. It maybe isn't the best thing for golf. It's not the best thing for flying on planes. Uh, on the other hand, it is good at crowded golf tournaments. I can see over people. So I've learned to be a lot more comfortable with my height. I've learned to accept it, embrace it. And I guess that's just part of getting older and more mature, maybe.
Yeah. Well, as a younger person, it can be tougher. Nobody likes as a ginger myself. You don't realize that you're standing out in a crowd, but
Yeah.
you are, whether you like it or not.
And I know this is going to be weird to say given what we do and what I do, but I've always been uncomfortable being the center of attention. And I think
Hmm.
my height played into that, where even if it was just in my own head, I always felt like, whether it's in a crowded bar and you're kind of a head above everybody,
Yeah.
it would make me uncomfortable sometimes.
I totally get it, man. Totally get it. Well, I'm happy for you. You sound like you're doing great. I know Denver's been a really good move. Ski season is coming up, which is going to be exciting. Did you pick a mountain?
I couldn't make a choice, so I'm officially a Coloradan because I bought both ski passes this year.
Oh,
Yeah.
look at you.
Yeah.
Must be doing pretty well there, Mr. Landis.
Well, I did buy a lesser tier of the Epic Pass. I bought a full Icon Pass for the second year, and I figured if I go to Vail is on the Epic Pass, which is the other one. It is crazy what they charge for lift passes. I mean, honestly, I need to ski like twice to make the Epic Pass worth my money. And so
All
I
right.
feel like that's easily attainable. Both of them will pay for themselves very quickly, which is good. Skiing's just people think golf is expensive. Holy smokes, is skiing expensive? I can't imagine doing it with a family with kids. It is, I mean, that's a whole different podcast, but yeah,
It is expensive. Our girls are just
it's not for
starting.
everybody.
Maybe we should stop them because they don't love it too much. I don't know why we're forcing them, but yeah, it is expensive. But we have
It's
tiny little
crazy.
mountains out here, and it's not too bad.
And
But
that's fun. That's how I grew up in Ohio. We would
right,
go every Friday night to a small hill over in southern Indiana, and
the
it just went from
slopes
there.
of Indiana.
Exactly.
Let's
But
see.
like golf, I think the more you can get your kids doing at a younger age, the easier it is to either keep with it into adulthood or pick it back up when you're an adult.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I can't let you go without reminding you that you do have a piece due for the Golfers Journal.
Oh God.
That was really the whole purpose of it. I just wanted to catch up.
500
and
words,
make sure.
anything I want.
Yeah,
I might
think
just
it was-
write like a manifesto or something.
that would be great.
I might challenge your definition of 500 words on anything.
Do it. That's what makes the Golfers Journal great. We have that flexibility. We, like you said earlier, if we don't like it and we don't want to do it and we're not excited about it, we don't have to do it. And we're not going to do it. So,
Yeah.
but we're excited about you writing some stuff for us again. We love what you've done in
Does
the
it have
past.
to be golf related?
No. I mean, if it had the word golf, or if it bumped up against golf, maybe, or maybe just pastimes or outdoors, it could be pretty tangential.
Okay. All right.
And then you're supposed to write a book. I've been on you about that as well. So
Can I ask you something?
sure.
Is writing the most difficult thing that you do? Because to me, writing well, I can't imagine anything more difficult.
I wouldn't say writing first drafts, getting started on something is probably the hardest thing about what I do. But once I get stuck into something, then it starts to feel like I'm on the treadmill again, or I'm on, I'm running and I'm at mile 6, where it starts to feel actually okay, or horrible depending on your fitness level. But I guess I've been doing it. I'm fit enough as a writer, I suppose. So yeah, getting started is very scary and difficult, and the blank page, and so I mean, you learn strategies for getting over that, freeing yourself up, writing shitty first drafts, erasing your first drafts, whatever, all that. No one's ever going to see what your first draft for these 500 words is, Phil. So
True.
just get something down, and know that in my fourth draft, it's going to start to look like something. So writing's the hard part. Rewriting is work, but it's just easier emotionally, because you're like, okay, now you see it getting better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still get intimidated by any assignment, because there's you feel like you're only as good as your last thing, and what if this is the one that sucks? Which is kind of a.
And do you struggle with, at the beginning especially, what am I trying to ask here? Do you struggle with the almost limitless possibility as far as where you could take a story or a book or an idea? I think that's part of it for me, which has played out in my personal life. Like I think this is very much like a personality function of mine. For instance, like when I moved to Denver, I would I want to live in 400 different places on this earth, and there's just not enough time. I'll never be able to do it. Or there are other things like that, right? I think it's why I struggled so much with, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? It's like, well, God, I feel like I want to do a lot of different things, but how can I ever choose just one? Dating the same way, right? Like, how could there ever just be one? So it's something I continually struggle with, but I think it manifests in writing as well.
Sure. No, I mean, good writing is organized thinking, is well organized thought. So if your head is all over the place, as mine would be going into a story or a new feature or an essay that, like, I'm working on now, there is that feeling of, yeah, this can be a lot of different things. I don't know which directions this is taking me, but once I latch onto something, and sometimes it's a matter of a sentence or a paragraph that is the building block, right? And then it's like, okay, now that's the thing I'm going to organize my thoughts around. And so I basically, the hard thing to do, I think, a lot of times, is to basically build the framework, the structure, the blueprint to build what's the thing that I'm going to hang. Because I love to play with words, and I can crack a joke once in a while. I've got all these sentences. I can spin some sentences, but what's it going to hang on? That's going to push the whole thing through. And that's very intimidating to say, like, how can I find, we call it like the skeleton or the spine of the story. And so that sometimes, is that, because it can be anything. But that's why you keep just scratching away at the paper, and then you find, or the word, whatever, on your word file or whatever, you bang, 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 and then something sticks there where you're like, okay, that's going to be in it. And the rest can go away maybe for another day.
Wish I could have been in one of those writing classes with Professor Coyne.
Oh my God. That was a bunch of see, that's why I got out of it, because I just talk gibberish. I feel like there's that insecurity of being like afraid of the blank page for the every time you see it. I would feel that way going into class every day. Like, this is the day that the students find out I don't know shit.
No, and that's the exact feeling I've been trying to. That's how I wake up every day with no language. I mean, I think. I guess if there is some wisdom that I've picked up is like one, like pretty much everybody feels that way, right? It's not a unique thought. And two, I always assumed that would like go away, right? When you're like young, you think, oh well, you'll find a job and like all that stuff will go away.
It all settles in. Everything happens as it's supposed to happen, right? No.
Yeah, it's like no. These are just stuff everybody deals with all their lives, and you just manage and work through it the best you can.
Exactly. And in the meantime, go see some leaves, carve a pumpkin. I'm so excited you carved a pumpkin. Now that I realize you have a partner, a friend, whatever.
We made a little night of it.
That I'm glad the idea of carving a pumpkin alone was sort of an image. It was a little bit sad. I'm glad that wasn't the case.
Well, I will say the last year I lived in Jacksonville, Neil and his now wife Carson were there. They were living down there through the pandemic, and so I was the third wheel. I carved pumpkins with them. So this is a little happier circumstance, I guess, for my carving. But I've carved a pumpkin like the last 5 or 6 years. Started in Columbus. Again, just like a couple invited me over and like, Phil, you want to carve pumpkins? I was like, yeah, please, thank you.
And to many more.
Yes.
What did you carve? Standard or like a golf theme?
Well, no. I buy
hearts, perhaps.
I buy the little booklet of patterns from the store. So I rip out a page and I trace it, and then I just carve along the lines.
Wow.
So I'm not artistic, but I can. That's the best process for me.
Okay. And again, didn't see you having a process, but I love it.
Yeah.
I bought those things too. You're the man. Hey, thank you for your time and for opening up to our listeners on many a topic. And everyone, look forward to reading some of Phil's. Your byline will be Phil Landis, I'm sure. Or probably we have to put AKA, but
I think it's always been Phil Landis. I think maybe in parentheses, AKA Big Randy, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, good. So look for a byline in the Golfers Journal from Phil Landis. It's I'm not sure which issue because we're not sure when we're going to get this essay, but it's coming. And we're not sure what it's going to be about.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm just really happy for you, man. You look great and life's going well.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Next spring or summer, I got to get to Philly, play some golf with you again.
We're waiting. Maybe I'll come skiing.
Yes. Bring the family out for a $10,000 weekend on the slopes.
No, but I won't bring the dog.